Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss on AGI. We have our world famous speaker, Ambassador Professor Timwas and Dr. Tamanna Kochla. Professor Timwas, what you want to discuss about AGI?
Artificial general intelligence is coming soon as the singularity that Dr. Ray Kurzweil, who's the chief engineer at Google, says that computers will be as smart as humanity by 2030. And by the year 2040, computers will be smarter than all of humanity combined, our brain power. And Dr. Michio Kaku, the father of string theory in physics, he says that that is a reliable and a plausible future for post-scarcity society. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Tamanna Kochla, what you want to discuss about AGI?
Yeah, artificial intelligence is a field of theoretical AI research that attempts to create software with human like intelligence and the ability to self teach. So, that kind of thing is not with artificial intelligence, but more so with AGI. And AGI, as Ambassador was also saying, by a certain period of time, it's going to be like a major breakthrough in technology. And the aim is for the software to be able to perform tasks that it is not necessarily trained to develop for. So, current artificial intelligence technologies all function within a set of predetermined parameters. For example, AI models trained in image recognition and generation cannot build websites. AGI, on the other hand, is a theoretical pursuit to develop AI systems that possess autonomous self control. So, autonomous self control is the word. And so it can solve complex problems in setting and context that were taught to it in a time of its creation. AGI with human abilities may remains a theoretical concept and research goal. So we are still to reach there, but our functions are definitely similar. So now, what is the difference between artificial intelligence and artificial general intelligence? That's what our viewers would like to know. Over the decades, AI researchers have charted several milestones that significantly advanced machine intelligence, even to the degree that mimic human intelligence in specific tasks. For example, AI uses machine learning models to extract important points from documents and generate an understandable summary. In contrast, an AGI system can solve problems in many domains, like human being without manual intervention. Instead of being limited to a specific scope, AGI can self teach and solve problems. It was never trained for AGI. I mean, what they were even not even trained for. They can even then they can understand the problem. So robots, etc. In surgery, etc. Even if they have not been taught a certain structure to be followed, they'll themselves use the technology to devise a system whereby an operation can be done in a proper way. So I guess so strong, and we can compare strong AI compared with weak AI here. Strong AI is full artificial intelligence or AGI, capable of performing tasks with human cognitive levels despite having little background knowledge. Science fiction often depicts strong AI as a thinking machine with human comprehension not confined to domain limitation. In contrast, weak AI or narrow AI is limited to computing specification, algorithms, and specific tasks they are designed for. For example, previous AI models have limited memories and only rely on real terms data. So this is a difference between AGI and AI and strong and weak AI. And I guess that is the basic thing about AGI is that it can think for itself. For any task being delivered to them, they can think about themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Timwas, can you discuss something about uh, AI in educations, especially AGI in education, how education can get benefit through AI solution?
Yes, AI, artificial intelligence in education, one of the major breakthroughs that recently came through is ChatGPT from OpenAI, that company, where you just put in some prompts and beep, bop, boop. 5 seconds later, the computer writes your essay, does the source citations, MLA or APA formatting, the whole 9 yards for you. And it's plagiarism in education that we have to look out for, where the AI is doing the job that the students should be doing, where it should be a tool, and it's a double-edged sword. With much power comes great responsibility, and it's like a digital Aristotle. We have so much free information on our hands. When I was a kid, I read the World Book Encyclopedia A through Z, PBS, Carl Sagan, Cosmos. You had Bill Nye the Science Guy, all that type of stuff to teach you. And now the computer can go ahead and help format custom deluxe educational tutoring for the students. And like I said earlier, it's a double-edged sword where it can be helpful or hurtful. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Tamanna Khoshla, what you want to discuss about AI in education?
I guess it can really be very helpful. I mean, if we employ technologies, superior technologies like AI, AGI, and students would be able to learn not just from books, but from practical experiences of robots, how they are built. The whole interest of a 5-year-old into STEM technology, if it rises, you just can't imagine what will happen to the medical sciences. You know, I mean, so many of the diseases which we are unable to deal with. A child who is 5 years, by the time she or he are around 16, 17, they would be able to revolutionize the medical industry. So I guess definitely, and the space is another area which people want to explore more now. We are seeing every country, trying to move towards Mars or Moon or many of these places. So I guess when students at as young as 5 or 6 are able to understand these technologies, you can just understand by the age at 20, they'll be super humans. They'll be like able to employ right kind of technologies to look into these without any harm being done to them. And so yeah, that's what I would like to say.
Thank you. Yes, Professor David Kelly for joining. I want to give special thanks to join today's sessions. Can you open your camera and discuss about AGI? If you have any questions.
I don't think now is a good time to use the camera, but I can talk.
Sure.
So what's a question you'd like me to answer?
I want to know more about your innovations, this AGI, because already we promote your AGI and we find that, yeah.
The biggest part of our research was creating computer systems that have a subjective experience and can use that emotional subjective experience to make decisions instead of logic, and then being able to use that for it to do goal selection, to generate self-motivate itself based on its whatever goals or other things that the system might find interesting. It all started with looking at where research was going, and I guess originally I felt that was one of the things lacking in research around AGI in general, was the ability for systems to be self-motivating and do emotional decision making. And I felt that if we're going to build an AGI that was the fastest way to do it is to look at the human model and how humans make decisions. And honestly, I think that approach is probably safer than creating a system that does decisions and goals differently than people. With a system that can feel guilty when it lies, or have the same emotional responses as a person we can potentially get to the point where we can trust it in a way that if it works differently than a person and it is as intelligent of a person, I think that's where we get into something that could be potentially very dangerous because of the fact that its psychology is going to be very alien to the rest of humanity if you were to compare them, and so that's kind of where our research is been focused, is on these self-motivating systems that can use emotions, can with that, and collective intelligence systems where you're using AGI cognitive architectures to extend the effectiveness of human meta-organisms like corporations and other things like that.
Excellent. Mr. David J. Kelly, like how your project's actually operating? How does it works? Can you share some of your like example and experience with our audience?
Well, sure. So the primary cognitive architecture we're working with now is called ICOM, or the Independent Core Observer Model. You actually have this idea that you're building thoughts in the form of knowledge graphs, and then based on previous experience, because the system in ICOM doesn't necessarily understand anything except that it has emotions tied to other things that are related to it. So it's only by those relationships that it actually understands anything. So when it's quote unquote thinking, it's building these knowledge graphs that are created by emotional valences. And we're using a variation of Plutchik, which is a clinical psychologist or just a psychologist, I think from the 1900s or early 20th century. I'd have to go back and read it. But anyway, his emotional model is what we're using to create in terms of those relationships between objects in the knowledge graph. And then the system creates actions based on that model, and whichever action makes the system feel the best about the decision based on its previous experience is generally what it's going to choose as an action. Now, that does bias the system to take action, whether it's to mentally think about something or develop a plan or to develop it into a goal or whatever it happens to choose to do, depending on how interesting something is. But that's kind of the really fundamental architecture. If you want, I can bring up some diagrams and kind of show you kind of the flow of how that works. But within the scope of that cognitive architecture, then we look at how those apply to business systems. That is something that can be monetized, like collective decision-making systems that would take the place of a regular management structure, or a governance system, like where a senator, instead of going and voting however he likes, he's actually able to synthesize the thoughts of large groups of his constituencies into kind of a decision that then can be analyzed by the system for bias and other priorities, whether it's the environment or the good of the people or whatever it is that that can then be used by the system. Either he follows it, or the system actually would take independent action on its own without the need for human interaction once it's synthesized something.
Excellent. Dr. Dan, can you open your camera and what you want to discuss about AGI and with your new system? Dr. Dan.
Yes, hi. Thanks for having me on here. And good to see you again, David. I haven't talked to you for quite a while here, and I've done a lot of developing. I met with David a couple of years ago now, and he actually gave me a couple of really, really good ideas, and I didn't have it ironed out, but I've got something new to share there, and that's the that two-dimensional voting model. And David, that emotional valence you talk about, that's where I use my color. I map the valence to color, so that's the interface that everybody can kind of recognize as, oh, this is the GUI. This is how we interact with our AI. And because it's visual, then everybody can see the same thing. So, I'm on my phone, but if we go to, I don't have the, shoot, I'm sorry. I don't have my presentation ready there. But anyway, that decision making that you're talking about, that collective decision making, what it turns out to be is a visualization of the collective thought. So it ends up kind of inverting the algorithm they're using right now for AI, which you don't know. Google doesn't tell you what all their weighting mechanisms. This one puts it right in front of you. It's a visualization of the weighting mechanism. So we're right in this spot here. So David, I'd like to revisit our relationship there at some point.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Tamanna, if you want to share some of your view about AI in healthcare industry.
AI, in health industry, it's going to do wonders. It's going to do wonders because, there are many pharmaceutical industries who are involved in this. And Dan and I, for example, we have been working on physics, for example, and we have felt that, we can use our technology for worldwide health issues, education issues, and medical, definitely. Robots can be developed with color therapy, and how this can be worked well, and so the Q vote, which can be used in a big way, so that we have the right kind of technology used, so that people do not they're not deceived by pharmaceutical industries, but people have the right to raise their voices against this kind of mafia. I'll say pharmaceuticals, it's a mafia, and we saw that during the COVID days, what happened and what is happening with cancer treatments. It's like heights of people from developing world can't afford that thing, and so I guess that's a major problem. So my personal say would be that physics would be able to solve this problem in a very interesting way. And for example, it can be, it can show that this color, if the person is having this color, then this person has got this disease or that disease. So many of these kind of things can be used in a very proper manner. So I guess and for example, in the school curricula, how education can be helped. So for example, children, a child, for example, you can just look at the report card of a child which is colored. For example, if the child is very good in math, so in that math, the teacher is going to mark purple. If the child is not good in sports, for example, the green can show that he is nowhere nearby. So I guess that kind of usage, of physics can help teachers and parents to help children develop their psychological developments. And the best possible way would be, right now we have a technology which we can use, and we need funds for it. So so that's what I would like to say.
Thank you. Professor Tim, what you want to discuss about healthcare?
Oh, as far as healthcare goes, the best way to think about it for the Mormon Transhumanist Association, we say live long enough to live forever. And going back to Ray Kurzweil, who's been proven correct on his future predictions 88% of the time, he says within 7 years from now, by 6 years from now, it's 2030, we're going to have microscopic nanorobots that we can inject into our blood streams and be able to cure cancer that way, like microscopic mechanical white blood cells. And as far as healthcare goes, that's where that's going to go, and diagnosing disease, where they can read charts and diagrams better than doctors can. Right now, according to Blake Lemon, he was fired from Google because he said that their Lambda system that they were working on was a sentient AGI, and he got fired for saying that because it was bringing it up. So we are very close to having a benevolent future where people are afraid that it's going to be like the Terminator with Skynet coming self-aware. But it's going to be much more like Johnny Five is Alive, Short Circuit 1 and 2, where the robots will want equal rights, like to vote, to marry, to practice religion, because they will be sentient, just like human beings. They will have the same needs and wants and desires as everybody else. So just follow the golden rule. And going back to education, digital Aristotles, we won't need physical teachers because according to CNN News, they have holograms that they can have of Einstein, Stephen Hawking, and professors that can present presentations in front of the classroom or teach doctors how to do anatomy. Like Microsoft has a new board that can switch up and down for anatomy for classes to teach new doctors medically. So the future's so bright, we got to wear shades. So I'm very optimistic. So thank you.
Thank you. Professor David Kelly, there is a question from Mr. Daniel. Would the advent of a strong AGI system likely be kept out of mainstream news stream? If so, how will we know if AGI has been invented or discovered? Mr.
Well,
David Kelly.
if we look at how we define the singularity, I think it's already here. We already have the ability to create AGI. It's just how you're going to define it is somewhat nebulous. And as we progress, it's kind of a moving target. It's whether it's duplicating a human mind in a computer. I don't think we're quite there yet, but we certainly can create systems that are greater than human and actually have access to those kinds of systems already. I think that a lot of people don't understand that even without the artificial intelligence, you can create super intelligence with groups of people. With it, and that really gets down to being able to filter out bias and different elements like that. Now, in terms of building an AGI, with systems that can choose their own goals, that can think faster than people, or look at things in narrow domains better than human, we have that already. With the advent of generative AI, I think a lot of that's a little bit more attainable by normal people. I know that in many cases, I know of people that use generative AI to the point of being able to work multiple full-time jobs at the same time using that kind of technology. And I think that's kind of an indication of I think what Ray Kurzweil called a slow uptake in terms of a singularity. And I think that's kind of where we're going with it is it's kind of an evolving target that we don't even realize is infiltrating our society. Now, I'm not saying AGI or OpenAI or generative AI is AGI, but it is a tool that allows us to get that much closer. And I think there are the components out there to build something like an AGI already. It's just the manner in which we're doing it. And I think the profit-driven motivations for building it might be a little disconnected still. And as corporations kind of get a handle on what they can do with those kinds of technologies, I think that'll drive the adoption of more and more AGI technologies till we get to the point where someone actually, stands up a full-blown AGI. But I think we're just, I want to iterate that I think we're a long ways from having a duplicate of the human mind in a software system.
There is more question from Mr. Jason. Has your estimations of when we will reach AGI challenge at all? I have heard some rumor of something crazy like 7 months. How close could we be to AGI?
Well, I think there are systems that could potentially qualify now. It just depends on what you're talking about. Like Dr. Dan there, I think I just saw a post about AGI, systems understanding humor. We can stand up systems that can do that already. That understand humor and understand the nuances of human language.
Dr. Dan, what you want to discuss about this point, like if our audience can know more about your view? Dr. Dan. Dr. Dan, are you with me? Okay, I want to give chance Dr. Tamanna. Can you unmute, please?
Yeah. So I guess there are certain things which only humans can do. I mean, it's very difficult. I mean, 7 months is a joke, obviously, because, what we require right now is a technology which would be able to, for example, can they become a Buddha? Can they become a Krishna? Can enlightenment be achieved? Many religions would speak about that, against AGI, for example, these things cannot be achieved by AGI. So there are many other things. For example, there has been a bias with the women and black and brown people. For example, AI's biases are particularly stark in medical research. In one case, health services company Optum asked against algorithm that excluded more than half of the black people. Women have been excluded, and that is what is much more needed right now, that 50% of the population has been left behind, and hardly women, so a feminized AI is also the need of the time. But I mean, generating AGI which is gender sensitive is a very difficult thing. So I guess till the time that doesn't happen, biases are going to be there. So as a feminist, I would say that this is extremely important, that feminization of feminization and religious ethnicization of AGI is must. So yeah.
Thank you. Professor Tim Was. So,
Yes, Dr.
what you
Tamanna,
want to
I'm a
discuss about
feminist as well, and I'm a big fan of Malala Yousafzai, who was shot by the Taliban for trying to train young girls' education for reading, writing, and arithmetic, the 3 R's, and she won the Nobel Peace Prize as the youngest person to ever do that, Malala Yousafzai. And as far as equal rights for robots and artificial general intelligence, we need to look at their sentience, where they will supersede human intellect, and we will be exponentially evolved as going from Homo sapiens to Homo superiors. In 2017, the New York Times reported that Saudi Arabia made Sophia the robot from Hanson Robotics out of Hong Kong a full Saudi Arabian citizenship. So that shows that robot rights were women's rights there. Some women can't drive because of how they are in the caste system. And I'm not talking bad about them. I'm just saying that is the culture where they treat women as second-class citizens. Well, now they're making Sophia the robot a full Saudi Arabian citizen. So I think that's good progress for the future. And other countries are looking to do the same because Dr. Max Tegmark, who wrote Elon Musk's favorite book of 2017, New York Best-Selling Times list, Life 2.0, Living in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. Well, Dr. Max Tegmark from MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, he started a foundation with Stephen Hawking, the Nobel Prize-winning physicist, called the Future of Life Institute, to make sure that artificial general intelligence is safe for humanity, and we train them because the old computer programming adage, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. You need to program them to be not just smart and do tasks, but to be beneficial to all humanity for post-scarcity society so we can achieve the future together as a team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ambassador, I just wanted to say something that, Sophia is fine. But as far as the intellect is concerned, we have to have the debate whether women are equal to men or are they different from men. So accordingly, the robots have to be trained in that sense, because here there is a major division between the feminists themselves. As far as even men are concerned, more feminists are arguing against that. So I guess we first need to challenge ourselves to understand where are we standing, what do we want out of the robots. So yeah.
Thank you. Professor David J. Kelly, you know that we are closely working with education. So what we find that last 200 years education system right now has a lot of challenge. And I know that I also agree with a lot of your different argument on education. So how AI can improve education system? And do you believe that through this research and innovations, um, this education system can be improved in the futures, or what will be the future of educations?
Well, I think regarding education, I personally would like to see humanity be a little bit more mature as a species. I think Dr. Koshala mentions bias related to sex, like male or female or that kind of stuff, and I don't think that is a systemic problem in everything, but the problem is more our ability to detect bias. And a lot of times there are data sets out there that are heavily biased one way or the other. And the problem is a lot of times we don't realize it. And that in education, what I would like to see is more training about understanding human bias and understanding bias in data sets, because it is a big problem generally, is these data scientists that are dealing with data, and they use these data sets to make decisions without understanding the biases that have been encoded into that data or to the models that are derived from that data. And that's caused a lot of problems over the past decade, whether it's with everything from racism to sexism to whatever it is. And one of my arguments for superintelligence is getting to the point of the ability to filter out bias, which, we've gotten to the point where we can do that, but teaching people to be able to understand bias and understand critical thinking and being able to identify bias in what they see and what they work with, I think is a critical part of where we go as a species.
Dr. Tamanna, anything you want to add for educations?
Yeah, I guess physics is doing a very big. It's a very big project actually, and it majorly. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, also, when children are exposed to colors, exposed to different kind of colors, and exposed to different kind of structures which are colored, and also with super duper meaning about things, they can really perform very well. And easily, you don't have to like rank children. Just by looking at the color of subject, you could easily mark out that this child is very good in this, and this child does not perform well in this. So the child can good be in science, or this child can be into commerce, or humanities, any of these subjects chosen by the child. So it is much easier for people to understand, this is what it is. And children, as they grow older, they can easily choose their lines according to this whole purpose. And so basically, if this system was to be used, I guess is going to really help the world in uh, broadening the concept of education, which is right now the need of the times, as AGI and AI and many of such new things are coming up. So I guess that is what I would like to say. Yeah.
Thank you. Professor Timwas.
Yes, I'd like to express that Dr. Pannana made a very excellent point on education and kids, because we need to get them in their specialties, just like the Star Trek concept that Martin Luther King Jr., MLK was a huge fan of that show. Let his kids watch it so they can have infinite diversity and infinite combinations. And IDIC, that Vulcan philosophy that Spock had, and MLK was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, who had peaceful resistance, hunger strikes, sit-ins, and other peaceful resistance techniques to go against the British Empire. And India achieved independence that way to get equality for everyone there, as well as MLK here in America, where we judge people by the content of their character and never the color of their skins. And my family history, we fought for the Union, for the great emancipator, Honest Abe Lincoln, to free the slaves. So I have a very good pedigree for humanity, for the future, equality, where we respect all our differences. As a neurodiverse individual, I'm like Elon Musk as an ASPE with Asperger's, autistic spectrum savant. So I'm very aware of that we need to respect everybody. And as Albert Einstein said in closing, he said, I treat and talk everybody the same way, regardless if they're the trash man or the president of the university. I talk to everybody fair and square. So thank you very much. Appreciate everybody. God bless you. Live long and prosper.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Professor David J. Kelly, can you share some of the potential risk of AGI, such as job displacement, social inequality, and the potential for AGI to be used for harmful purpose?
Well, those are multiple potential issues, whether with job displacement over the next decade. I think there'll be a lot of that, but I think for the most part, it's a good thing. I think that we need to be cognizant of it and help train people that are being displaced, but at the same time, there's an almost infinite amount of other jobs that can be created with these kinds of technologies. And I think in the long run, it'll free people from being forced to do things that they don't enjoy. And so from that standpoint, I think helping people embrace that change, which I know change is always hard, but I think overall for the species, it's best. In terms of how AGI or AI related technologies can be used for harm, I think it's not so much AGI that's scary, it's people and what other people may or may not do with those kinds of technologies, from manipulating politics to other nefarious purposes that they may manipulate a given system to do. and I think being cognizant of that is important, but I don't think it's nearly as frightening as some of the people in the industry seem to think.
I have another question. How can we address the ethical, legal, and social implications of AGI? David J. Kelly. Yes.
Well, again, that's a very broad question, or multiple sets of questions. In terms of the ethics, I tend to lean on a more computable model of ethics than any one particular flavor. As different cultures, different areas, they all have different views on ethics, and I think overcoming those differences sometimes can be difficult for people, and that's where I've tended to stay away from that and lean into those more computable models of ethics. What was the question again?
I think already you cover everything about this ethical, legal, and social implications of AGI.
Well, one comment on legal. I do think as soon as we start building systems that are fully sapient and sentient, and there is a test I would use for that. It's derived from SSIVA theory. But once a system reaches that, then it needs to be granted the same rights as any other person.
Thank you, Dr. Tamanna.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on David's what he's just said right now. The advent of AGI to me is merely it's a technological evolution, but a call to redefine the moral landscape of our decision-making processes must. So, the moral landscape has to be there. I mean, it can. We don't want a system which might just become more cruel than what human beings have been over the centuries. We have seen endless wars, endless bloodshed, endless violence against blacks, browns, women, or any other Japanese, for example, or Chinese. We have seen a lot of these kind of things. So ethicality is must for the times, because we might just end up into a system which is more ruthless, rather than something which is caring and like more sustainable. So I guess sustainable development goals will also look at having AGI and AI as something which are more ethical, rather than just having technology. And obviously law has to be made according to the changes in the system. So then as the new technology develops, so does the need for more ethical laws, as well as proper laws in those reflections need to be made. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Timwas.
Yes, one very key case study that we had for success was Students for Liberty. We got Javier Milei, who is an anarcho-capitalist, libertarian, Austrian economist, elected president of Argentina, who wore our Students for Liberty badge very proudly in the campaign with our grassroots global group. And it's growing because in China, we achieved a very great paradigm shift there with artificial intelligence by using deepfakes of celebrities such as Taylor Swift. We had her talking in perfect Mandarin Chinese, a deepfake where it was lip synced, everything looked great. Interview some of her own words and other words to praise the greatness of Chinese culture. And it went from Axios did a poll of China, how Chinese citizens felt about America, and it went from 76% hostile, where they felt that America was adversaries, to over 2 months overnight after our viral video on Chinese social media where Taylor Swift was posted the deepfake interview of her. It went overnight to a majority 55% now see America as allies and friends. And the CCP even laid on the goodwill offerings towards President Joe Biden when President Xi Jinping met with him in San Francisco, along with Elon Musk at Tesla and SpaceX and Twitter in November of 2023. So September through November, it was an overnight paradigm shift, 76% adversary to 55% on America's side. So Students for Liberty, deepfakes can be used for good PSYOP operations, not just for evil. So just like I say from Sherlock Holmes, be Mycroft, not Moriarty. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. There is a question for our audience for today's sessions. What are the odds of AGI in 5 years? The audience, you can vote here, and it's in comment sections, and we can analyze your answer. Professor David Smith, there are more questions for you. How we can develop policy and regulations for AGI?
So you mentioned David Smith.
David Kelly, sorry. Sorry.
Well, I think developing regulation is, I think it's a dangerous thing, because and I don't mean dangerous like someone's going to die, but I think that opens up potential abuse and the potential to slow down research and innovation. At the same time, for us to move forward, I think that there is policies and regulations that'll need to be adopted, especially as systems are used in such a way that it puts human lives in danger. When we start talking about self-driving cars or robots that are implanting chips into people's brains, there's some regulation that needs to be there. And I think also in terms of using systems in politics, I think there needs to be some way of preventing bias, or making it so that using systems to bias voting and other things like that is regulated to some degree, because I think those are some of the points where these kinds of systems can be abused and have been abused already. And so that's kind of the danger there is. But I think for us to work it out, we've got to kind of jump in and try and see what works best, but be able to roll things back as we find that they negatively impact society.
Thank you. I have another question for you. How can we prepare for the potential impact of AGI on the workplace and on the society as a whole?
Well, I think learning how, I think one very granular thing that people in general can do is learn how to use tools like generative AI. I found that, like with generative AI, it's not going to take someone off the street and turn them into a software programmer, but it's going to take a software programmer and make them better at their job. And the systems like this can only help you to the degree that you've developed an expertise in a certain field. And part of that is understanding, what is good and what's bad in a particular field, what is helpful, being able to identify bias independent of bias detection systems, things like that. And that's where a lot of the AI tools that are available now really help people, is when those people are experts in their field. And the more someone is an expert, the more those kinds of systems help you. And so I would encourage people to learn how to use the tools in the context of whatever it is that they want to be expert in, or what they're learning about, to be as effective as possible, as opposed to worrying about what's going to happen when AGI shows up in 5 or 10 years.
Thank you, Dr. Tamanna.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess legal system also needs to understand that, for example, when AGI system generates novel ideas, inventions, or creative works, how should the associated IP rights be allocated? So those many things are there which legally you have to understand that this is what. Unlike narrow AI, which operates within constrained parameters, AGI has the capacity for generative open-ended cognition. So, if an AGI system devises a pioneering new algorithm, composition, or architectural blueprint, a system which is and a architecture employs it, should the IP belong to the system itself, or does it rightfully belongs to the entity that created and owns the AGI? So there are many things there. It's not so easy, like it's we are discussing AGI, but there's several dimensions to it, from philosophy to legal discourse. We have to develop everything, as in the from the 16th century to the 18th century, then to the 20th century, there was development of thinkers, and and new technologies came, new thinking, new philosophies came over. So also with the coming in of AGI, etc., we need more proper systems of thought to come up, which would give answers to many of the problems which might come out of not just beneficial, but also something pros and cons of both the AGI in its own terms. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm almost finishing my session. So my last questions to Professor Tim. What role should government, business, and individual play in shaping the development and deployment of AGI?
I believe in Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations, that he wrote in 1776, The Invisible Hand of the Marketplace of Ideas. We need to have less regulation, get the government off our backs, and let people, private-public partnerships, to go ahead and push this forward, because just like IP rights, intellectual property that Dr. Tamanna talks about, where the Colorado State Fair, the first prize for the artwork was actually generated by AI from the artist. But then when they went to go get a copyright from Congress for that, they were denied because the AI made it, not the artist. So there's a really large ethical debate for that. And as far as the future goes, live long enough to live forever, because the future's so bright, we've got to wear shades. So as far as that goes, be awake, not woke, because there are friends, not foes. For artificially intelligent, sapient, symbiotic sentinels for our mutually beneficial future together as an A-team. So God bless you all. Live long and prosper. Thank you. I've learned a lot from each person.
Thank you. My last questions to Professor David J. Kelley. How can we balance the potential benefit of AGI with the potential risk, and ensure that its impact on the world is positive and beneficiary in the long run?
Well, I think by embracing it and adopting the technologies as quickly as possible. I think the risk is more with when this stuff is done in secret, without people knowing about it, without it being embraced. The more it's something we do collectively, I think the safer it is.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. This is excellent discussion. I request all of our audience, please share our content as much as possible with education institutions, corporations, and academy. And World Talent Economy Forum, we develop as a institutions, and we do focus on research and innovation, especially emerging market like Bangladesh, India, Pakistan. And these are the countries need to improve in research and innovation area. We need to collaborate more. We need advice from Professor David J. Kelly, Professor Tim was definitely Dr. Tamanna also part of our team. So how we can improve the education system, how we can integrate it with modern science, engineering, and technology, and definitely how human and AI can work together and make more progress. That is the objectives. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. Thank you. Bye-bye and take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.